NASDAQ100 is one of the most exciting indices to trade. It is fast-moving, tech-savvy, and offers good profit opportunities. But here is the catch. If you enter the market at the wrong time, it can cost you. If you enter when the market is slow, you face wider spread and unpredictable movement. But if you enter the market at the right time, you have better liquidity, stronger trends, and tighter spread. Now this begs the question, why does timing matter when trading NASDAQ100? Unlike currency pairs that trade 24 hours a day, the NASDAQ100 follows the US stock market hours. What this means is that its price action depends on when the US market is open, and this is very much different from currency pairs. For South Africans who want to trade the NASDAQ100, this may be a bit of a challenge for you because you would have to adjust your trading hours to match the US market activity. If you trade in the wrong session, you might get caught in a slow-moving market, and this means fewer opportunities for you to profit from. In this video, we are going to cover the best and worst time to trade NASDAQ100 in South Africa, how different forex and stock market sessions impact NASDAQ100 price movements, which market overlaps creates the most profitable trading windows, key global events that move NASDAQ100 and how to take advantage of them. By the end of this video, you should have a clear roadmap as to when to trade NASDAQ100 in South Africa to have maximum profits. Just before we discuss the best times to trade NASDAQ100 in South Africa, let's quickly do an overview of what NASDAQ100 is. The NASDAQ100 is a stock market index that includes 100 of the largest non-financial companies listed in the Nasdaq stock market. It's heavily weighted towards the technology sector, but also includes companies from industries like consumer services, healthcare, and industrials. Some of the most well-known companies in NASDAQ100 include Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, which is Facebook, and Alphabet, which is Google. The index is often used as a benchmark for the performance of large cap growth stocks and is tracked by many exchange-traded funds, that's ETFs, like Invesco QQQ. In summary, NASDAQ100 reflects some of the most innovative and influential companies in the United States of America, especially in tech. To get started, let's see understanding the NASDAQ100 market hours. Like I said earlier, the NASDAQ100 operates differently from the currency pairs. While the forex market can be traded 24 hours a day, the NASDAQ100 follows the US market schedule. However, you want to keep in mind that most forex brokers allow you to trade NASDAQ100 as contracts for difference 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. What this means for you is that although the NASDAQ100 is available for you to trade 24 hours a day, the best time to trade NASDAQ100 will be during high liquidity sessions, and this is when the US market is active. Now here's a breakdown of the NASDAQ100 market hours. The US pre-market session, this is around 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. GMT. So in South Africa, the US pre-market session is from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. South African time. Now during this time, trading volume is lower compared to the main market session. Remember, this is the pre-market session, so it's expected that trading volume will be lower because the market has not opened. Market makers and institutional traders begin positioning for the main market open. So banks, market makers, all of these big institutes that trade start preparing to open positions or open positions in preparation for the market to open during this pre-market session. Now in this session, price movements are unpredictable and spread can be wider. Now you want to be very careful about this session because price movement is unpredictable and of course spread will be wider. And lastly, during this session, good and experienced traders start looking out for momentum signals. Now let's move on to the next session. The US main trading session. This session starts by 1:30 p.m. and ends by 8 p.m. GMT. For South Africans, this will be 3:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. Remember, in South African time. Now here are some characteristics of this session. First, this is the most active period for NASDAQ100. This session experiences the highest volatility and trading volume as US institutions enter the market. So you want to keep in mind and be on the lookout for this session. And you should also know that this is the best time in the day for traders and scalpers looking for strong price action. And lastly, major economic data releases and any reports that move the market are released during this session. After the US main trading session comes the US aftermarket hours. The US aftermarket hours starts by 8 p.m. and closes by 12 a.m. GMT. For South Africans, this is around 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. South African time. These are some characteristics of this session. First, trading is slow, but some movements still occur due to late institutional orders and earning releases. This session also has lower liquidity, wider spread, and slower price action. However, this session may be best for swing traders holding positions overnight. Knowing these time frames will help you adjust your trading strategy with the right session. By doing so, you are able to avoid slow and low liquidity periods. Now, here's a quick overview that you want to keep in mind. First, the US main trading session, which starts around 3:30 p.m. and closes by 10 p.m. South African time, is the best time to trade Nasdaq100 due to high volume and strong trends. There's high market activity during this session. Next, the US pre-market session, this starts around 10 a.m. and closes by 3:30 p.m. South African time, can offer early trade setups, but liquidity is lower. Keep in mind that liquidity is lower. However, you can start looking at the chart to prepare your trade for the day. And then finally, the US aftermarket hours, that's from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. South African time, is best for swing traders, but not ideal for short-term trades. Keep that in mind. We have established in this video that the New York session is the best time to trade Nasdaq100. Yeah, while that's true, it is not just about when the session starts, it's really about how you trade it. So here's the thing, the New York session opens by 4:30 p.m. South African time, and right off the bat, you would notice the market gets super active. There's usually a sharp increase in volatility, big moves, fast candles, and a lot of volume. Now, this can be a great opportunity, but it can also be risky, especially if you're on the wrong side of the trade. However, here's what we have noticed. It may be a good option to wait for the first 15-minute candle after the New York open. Don't rush in. Let the candle form, mark the high and the low, then trade the breakout. As soon as price breaks out of the range, you can ride it until a full candle moving in the opposite direction. That's usually your exit. Now let's see a real example of how news from top tech companies can influence the value of Nasdaq100. Nvidia dropped its quarterly earnings after markets close on May 28th, and the numbers were wild. Revenue up 69% year over year. Naturally, you would expect Nasdaq100, which is heavily influenced by big tech companies like Nvidia, to rally. And yes, the initial reaction was bullish. If you look at the chart on May 29th, right before the New York session opened by 4:30 p.m. South African time, you'll see some strong push to the upside. But here's the interesting part. After the early spike, the New York session actually shifted bearish. You will notice more red candles than green, especially after the initial move. Why? Well, this is where the market dynamics come into play. Often, after big earnings like Nvidia's, the excitement gets priced in fast. Smart money sells into the hype. So what you are seeing here is profit taking and possibly even rotation into other sectors. It doesn't mean Nvidia's numbers weren't good. It just means that the market was already positioned for it, and now it's adjusting. That's exactly why the New York session can be tricky. So it's not just about direction, but it's also about timing. So moral story, even bullish news can trigger a drop if the market expectations were already too high. That's why it's risky if you are caught on the wrong side of the move. So if you do not have a solid risk management strategy and you don't understand how to trade the news, then you can also decide to sit the market out whenever there's a big news. Now that you know the best time to trade Nasdaq100 in South Africa, let's move on to talk about factors that affect Nasdaq100's volatility. The Nasdaq 100 is the most volatile indices in the financial markets. Its price movement is driven by a combination of economic data, earning reports, global market events, and investor sentiment. Understanding these factors help traders anticipate price swings and make informed trading decisions. Now let's see some of the factors that affect the Nasdaq 100's volatility, starting with the US economic data. Since the Nasdaq 100 represents major US tech and growth companies, its price is majorly influenced by key US economic indicators. And some of the most impactful reports include: first, the US non-farm payrolls. This report is released on the first Friday of every month. The US non-farm payrolls measures job growth in the US, and a strong non-farm payroll can boost investors' confidence and push the Nasdaq 100 higher. A weak non-farm payroll report can increase uncertainty and trigger sell-offs. Now, the next indicator we are going to look at is the Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index is also known as inflation data. If inflation is rising, the Federal Reserve may increase rates, which can negatively impact the Nasdaq 100. On the other hand, lower inflation leads to a bullish sentiment for US stocks. So when there's lower inflation, investors may have more trust for US companies, and then we may see an increase in Nasdaq 100. Now, the next indicator we are going to see is the US Reserve interest rate decisions. When interest rate rises, borrowing becomes more expensive. This can hurt tech companies and push the price of Nasdaq 100 lower. On the other hand, a low interest rate can make investing in US tech stock more attractive, thereby increasing the price of Nasdaq 100. The next indicator we are going to look at is the Gross Domestic Product report. A strong GDP report indicates economic growth and can push Nasdaq 100 higher, and a weak GDP report may lead to fear of recession, causing a sell-off. Combining technical and fundamental analysis can be a good approach towards building a strong trading strategy. So, knowing these key US economic indicators that can affect the volatility of Nasdaq 100 can be helpful to making informed decisions. For example, when the US Fed is hawkish as a result of inflation, you want to be very careful with going long on Nasdaq 100, because from fundamental analysis, you know that whenever the US Fed is hawkish and there's high inflation, the price of Nasdaq 100 is more likely to come down, because investors will find investing in US tech companies less attractive. That's just a simple example. On the same note, you also want to keep in mind that having a good understanding of fundamental analysis alone is not all. You also want to be very good at understanding and reading the Nasdaq 100 market chart. So you can employ tools like Fibonacci retracement, support and resistance, and even indicators like the moving average, convergence, divergence, MACD, and forex chart patterns and candlestick patterns. You can combine all of these to make better informed trading decisions. Whatever you do, just make sure that whatever signal you're getting on the chart, you're able to confirm it first before making a trading decision. Now that you know that the best time to trade Nasdaq 100 in South Africa is between 3:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. South African time, let's also see the worst time to trade Nasdaq 100 in South Africa. Now, the first worst time to trade Nasdaq 100 in South Africa is between 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. South African time. This session is characterized by low liquidity and wider spread. The next worst time to trade Nasdaq 100 in South Africa is between 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. South African time. Now, I should wonder, why should you be awake by 2 a.m.? So it's okay that it's actually a worst time to trade. You should have a good night's rest so that when you wake up in the morning, get done with your activities, by 3:30 p.m. you are seated and ready to trade. Now, this time between 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. is characterized by minimal price action and low liquidity. So you don't want to trade Nasdaq 100 around this time. So in conclusion, Nasdaq 100 can be a profitable asset to trade. However, timing is everything. Since the Nasdaq 100 follows the US market activity hours or session, you want to align your trading time to suit or match the US market hours so you can get the best out of trading Nasdaq 100. I really hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so when we release more helpful videos like this, you can be the first to get notified. And if you do not already know, we have a free forex trading product for you. It is absolutely free of charge. Our goal is just to see that you're able to learn the basics and that you don't get scammed by scammers who are online looking to take your money. Just visit mytradingland.com and take advantage of our free forex trading community, our economic calendar, market trading session, and news tab. All of these are free of charge. Just visit mytradingland.com. Thank you.